some bad things happen in my life. And none of you know the people that were involved, but other people know the people that were involved. So I can't write about that.
Well, it's certainly something you have to think about and understand that there are consequences, legal consequences, financial consequences, and even consequences of pain to people involved.
Yeah.
And
that's why I say, do you have to wait until they're dead before you can tell the story?
There's no single answer. You're going to have to think. What I do.
That's a good point, though, Julian.
Yeah, it really is. And you know, part of coaching is helping people to understand what their options are, what courses of actions they can take, what consequences are there, and what resources they have to help sort that out. So that's why I say if you have a question, you may even want to consult an attorney to say, am I on solid ground here, or is this something that's going to be a problem? But then there are also the ethical issues. Are they stories that should be told? Does it complement? You know, one question you can ask yourself is this a story that really needs to be in here? Does it move my story forward?
And what if the answer is yes?
Then you're going to have to weigh the issues and the consequences and make a decision.
Very interesting. I'm going to...
Well, I was only saying it because you know how the legal people, they put a 20 or an 80-year limit on what you can know before they release records from the, CIA or FBI or something like that. They don't release, redacted.
Right. Linda knows about that kind of stuff.
She's a very smart woman.
Yes, she is.
I know.
So that's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why I always wonder about those things that the CIA have, that you can get the Freedom and Information Act and see those records, but you can't see them unless they're willing to give them up, and it's usually 80 years, and that's the lifetime of a person. Right. So whatever it is, it's a lifetime of that person,
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Is spoken word the same?
Well, then the issue would not be the possibility of libel; it would be slander if it's false.
But if it's true.
Yeah. Well, if it's true, you have to be able to prove it's true. As I say, I'm not an attorney, so there are all sorts of fine lines about how it applies.
Next time you come on, probably a good guest would be to have an attorney here.
That'd be great, an intellectual property attorney.
I'm going to write that
Is that
down.
what you called an IT person? Intellectual property?
IP.
Oh, IP.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Intellectual, UAL. For some reason, my hand was
That's all
here.
right.
Intellectual
as long as you know what it
property
means.
attorney.
Yeah. Somebody who knows more than we do.
Yeah. I mean, they're an expert in publishing and copyright and so on.
Well, it's good to have somebody smarter in the room than, yourself.
Always.
So here you are and just one of the many decisions that you've possibly made this year was to start writing, to start journaling. That can turn into a book so easily, or into memoir.
Right.
So how would one begin? What you can't just sit down and say, "Oh, I had a nice day today," like in a teenage diary. "Oh, I met Billy Smith and I really liked him. He was cute."
So are we starting with a journal or without a journal?
Let's start with a journal.
With a journal?
First.
I think because people are so uncomfortable about actually sitting and formally writing, the great thing is that they can open that journal and look at what they've written, and that's kind of their writing prompt. Let me think about all the other things that I didn't say there in that entry, and just start writing about that one episode. And it's a great start because they've already got some of that material, and they have to just give themselves the freedom to say, "It's okay. I can throw this paper that I've just written away. This is practice, but it's getting you going."
And I like that. So it takes some of the fear out of it.
Exactly.
And gets you comfortable writing.
Exactly.
And sometimes once you get comfortable,
oh, you'll get lost in the writing. You won't even notice the clock moving. Yeah.
So now let's start without journaling.
Start with any thought you have. If you really are nervous about writing about that, just write about anything. Write about the day. Look out the window. What do you see? It just gets those muscles going. If you want to start on your memoir, don't worry about the beginning. Just think of something that you'd like to write about. Doesn't even have to be important, but what's one of the memories associated with it? What were the foods you ate on Christmas Day or at your Hanukkah dinner or whatever it was, how did you spend a summer day? How did you feel? And that's really important because you want your reader to feel your experience. It's not just writing for yourself, it's writing for the enjoyment of others. So,
well, how detailed do you get? I mean, do you bring into the picture in your mind the smells and the aromas of what you're feeling?
Sure.
How detailed do you get?
You can put whatever you want in there, and then in the editing process, you can decide whether that is important, whether it moves it forward or not.
I see.
And you can always do sidebars. For example, you start talking about the aromas of the apple pie. Well, you might even just put your mother's recipe for her apple pie in there, so you can do all sorts of great things.
And everybody kind of has their own feel. Once you start writing, you write your own style. It just kind of finds you.
Right.
So some people would include smells. Wow, my headphone just popped in.
Mine too.
That was weird. Some people would include smells, and others might not.
Right.
Some people might include more detailed color. Others might not. But I always, when I read a book, and I don't read technical books, but when I read like a book for enjoyment, I get so much more out of it when it can put me there. So that's kind of how I write, and it's because that's the kind of book I like.
Well, I have a question for you. Now that you've written a book now, all right, would you go back and redo it again and add more detail?
That's funny that you asked that because Tammy and I have been reading my book in our the Diva book social.
Okay.
And I haven't read it for quite a while. I've been away from it.
Okay. Would you add more detail to it?
Yes.
So what's this one going to be called?
My next one?
Yeah, it's going to have more detail to it,
It's
right?
called, Volume 1 of Divalution was Divalution, the Evolution and Revolution of the Diva. Volume 2 is Divalution, From Dating to Divorce.
Ooh. I just got an ooh from women.
Yeah, I saw her little eyes light up over there.
Well, we have said before that we need some kind of a program for people who are older, like myself, to have that experience dating and getting to know people because it's a different world out there at this age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is. And we're going to have a radio show about that, too.
Ooh, good to know.
Yes. Hey, we're not in the chat room today, and if you're wondering why, it's because LD is homesick. So, little Diva, we wish you very well. But you can call in. That number is 989-402-5414. If you have questions for Virginia, you want to wish Linda a happy birthday, if you want to say hey to Liberty or Nate who are here, or if you just want to tell us how much you love us, feel free to call in. That number is 989-402-5414.
I'm ready for the love.
Yes. Yes. So, we're talking about getting outside of your comfort zone and doing things that maybe you've been promising yourself that you would do for a long time. I bought my mother a book years and years ago, and it was where she filled in the blanks about what her favorite color was, what her favorite this was, what her favorite memory growing up was. And she never wrote in it. And one time I was down there, and I was really mad at her. And I said, Mom, I want you to fill this out. And she said, well, I don't know. You know how moms are.
Yeah,
and so I sat down with her, and I interviewed her, and I asked her each question as, in the book, and I filled it out for her. And the next time I came back, she had more filled out because she was getting into it. And I can't tell you how much it means to me now when I open that book and I see my mother's handwriting in it. And I see that her favorite flowers were gardenias. Her favorite flower to wear in her hair was gardenia, and her favorite flower was a dogwood. And these are all things that are very, I cherish that. And so I try to write things for my children. So, what I'm saying to you is don't be afraid. And that's what you are saying too.
Exactly. And for the people who really are not comfortable writing in writing on the computer or even longhand, dictate your notes.
Ooh.
Or just use the shoebox approach. Jot down a few things,
Oh, that's a good idea.
put them together, and then later on you can look at it and you've got that raw material that you can work with. And again, it gets you over the fear of not doing it well.
And you have to think about your great-grandchildren are not going to know you. And that shoebox approach is a very good idea, because think how fun that would be for a great-granddaughter to run across that. And there'd be recipes in there, and when you first fell in love and all that. How fun would that be?
And it's going to be something that, you're not going to be able to talk to your granddaughter very much or whatever. So maybe it's something that you might want to put your feelings into, because this is something that you're not going to, because just for instance, because we were talking about being in your mom's hand, I live in my mom and dad's house, all right, and they're no longer with us. They've passed on. And out in the garage, I know this sounds funny, but out in the garage on the wall, because this is where they were when they were doing it, Mom had written stuff about the sprayer for the tractor. And I know not everybody understands this because you have to be on a farm, but they were telling us what the tractor does and what levers go with what sprayers. And I know I want to paint the garage. But I'm very reliant. I don't want to cover up that, and it is in a lead pencil, it's not in ink.
Maybe you leave that portion.
We're gonna
Or
have
varnish it.
Going to have to frame
Clear
it.
varnish, something, yeah. Oh, I wouldn't get rid of that. For years after my children were grown up, I had their growth things
on the wall,
and I couldn't. And a lot of it was in pencil, and it was starting to fade.
Same thing.
And I couldn't. The whole kitchen was painted except for that part. I did it on the inside of the door jamb.
Can I take the paint off the wall? Is there a way to take the paint off the wall after it's been on there? Because I know where they are, where the little marks are on the wall that we did.
Yeah.
But
It might take those off, too.
That's right.
Yeah.
Boy, that is something that I'd really like to get back. I know that I was taller than my sister at one point.
There are ways to take off layers. You're getting into the kind of thing that historic preservation
Yes.
is doing.
Yes. That's right. You might want to call a museum.
I hope I'm not that old.
So, Liberty, are there certain things that you would like to pass on to another generation, or
Well,
your
you see, my
children's
problem
children?
is that I'm very traditional when it comes to a lot of things. And it's hard to say that I could speak for my same demographic, just because I think a lot of times people just assume that there's going to be electronic versions of pictures, there's going to be electronic memories and things like that, when in all reality, you never know. There could be some crazy crash that happens. I mean, you just
That's
never know how
right.
that stuff
That's
is.
right.
But I mean, there's a lot of tradition that's been passed down, that I've been lucky enough that's been passed down to me, and so I hope that it's something that I kind of keep at the forefront as we have a family and kind of, those types of things. But there's I have very fond memories, and when you relive those, whether it's around the holidays or whether it's on a specific weekend during the summer when your family would all get together, I think tradition is very important. And if you don't have it, even if you're making new traditions with friends or new traditions when you're in a new neighborhood or whatever it may be, if you don't do that, then there's just, you kind of lose the, I don't know, I'm pretty old school when it comes to that type of stuff.
But a lot of young people around your age are going back to those traditional things. So we're talking about coming out of the box. We're going to talk to Nate and see what his uncomfort zone is when we get back. So think about what New Year's resolutions you've made, and you can call in. The number's 989-402-5414. And we're here with Virginia Parker, and we're going to talk some more about writing your memoirs or your autobiography. See you in a little bit.